We're going to make tikka masala for the pantry today. And I'm really excited about this one. It's one that I first made last month and we've really enjoyed it. So you're going to be shocked at how easy this is. Welcome to Garden Reserve. I'm Carter and I'm so glad you're here today. The base recipe for this came from Not Your Mama's Canning Book. Her recipe is on page 95, tikka masala sauce. Now mine will vary from this and I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do and I'll write all of my measurements down below. I increased the spices in this by quite a significant amount. And then I'm also going to do something to help myself when it comes time to serve this and save me some dishes and extra mess at that point. So mine will be just a little bit different than hers, but I think you're going to like it. It has that great extra punch of flavor and something different to have on the shelf. You know, all those standard things we keep on our shelves are so useful to have there, and I use them every day. In fact, I use some of them in this particular recipe. But having something just different flavor-wise on the shelf really keeps things interesting and fun for us, and I make use of all the time. Okay, so let's get started. I did a bunch of my chopping yesterday, so I chopped my onions and my garlic and my ginger yesterday. I have also in this pot, I put some tomatoes, kind of the last round of tomatoes that I took out of the garden. I put them in a couple of gallon Ziploc bags and stuck them in the freezer a couple days ago, specifically for this recipe. Forgot to take them out last night, so I had to work them down from frozen just a little bit. And then I didn't quite have enough for the recipe, so I also added a couple of jars of previously home canned crushed tomatoes. The recipe calls for 12 cups of peeled and decored chopped tomatoes or diced tomatoes. So use what you have. It doesn't matter if they are commercially canned, if they are completely fresh from the garden and you want to dunk them and get the peel off and all of that, that's absolutely fine. If you want to use some that you have previously canned, if you want to use crushed tomatoes instead of diced tomatoes, any of that is absolutely fine. The key is about 12 cups of that is what we're looking for. So mine have been warming up and breaking down just a little bit because they were some pretty hard frozen rocks when I put them in there. So while that continues to break down just a bit, we're going to go ahead and get started on the onions and the seasonings. I'm going to bring you over here so you can see exactly what I'm doing because it's going to go fast. This pan here, get it on about a medium low, a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to start sweating down those onions. So the recipe calls for 3 large onions, which ends up being about 4 cups. And I just put those in the food processor yesterday and then stuck them in the fridge. So I didn't have to cry on camera today. If your tomatoes do not need to really kind of pre-defrost and break down, you can do this all in one pot and that would be fantastic. But I unfortunately needed to get those cooked down a bit. Okay, so my onions are in and I'm going to put the garlic in. It calls for 12 large cloves of garlic. I actually have some of the Costco chopped garlic that I kind of need to work through, so I went ahead and used that. And I'm thinking this is about 12 cloves. Could be a little heavy, but that's okay too. And we're going to go ahead and add our salt to help those onions break down. We just kind of want to get these to the point where they are translucent and sweat it off a good bit of their liquid. Let that evaporate just a little bit and then we'll add the tomatoes. We'll add the seasonings and then the tomatoes. I'm going to leave the salt out in case we taste for seasoning here in a bit and decide we need a little more salt. So I'm going to leave everything out. In fact, I'm going to leave everything out the whole time until we're good with it. And you should feel free to do that as well. Adding seasonings is not going to affect the safety of anything here. Okay, these onions are almost done, but let's run through the seasonings that I'm using. Again, these are different than the level of seasonings that she uses. I think it's all the same seasonings. I just used a good bit more of most of them. So you saw me use 1 tablespoon of salt already to help sweat the onions out. We're also going to add 6 tablespoons of garam masala. If you don't have garam masala, can't find it in the grocery store for some reason, it's relatively mainstream these days, but you can find recipes online to make your own garam masala out of other spices you may have in your cabinet already. I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of coriander. I'm going to use 2.5 tablespoons of cumin. I actually did not have enough ground cumin already, but I had some cumin seeds, so I ground some up and it smells amazing in here right now. I'm going to use half a tablespoon of cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of turmeric, 2 tablespoons of paprika. I'm also going to use, you saw me use the 12 cloves of garlic. I'm also going to use a heaping 1/4 cup of minced ginger. So I just put that in the food processor yesterday, and I have that all chopped up. And she calls for 3 jalapenos. I had 1 that was gigantic, 1 that was small, so I just used the 2. Last time I used green jalapenos. This time what I had were red jalapenos. Either is absolutely fine. It won't make a difference. If you don't like jalapenos, feel free to use a different pepper. Just, keep your quantities roughly. I have this made about 4 ounces worth of diced pepper. So about 4 ounces of diced pepper, any variety. If you don't like pepper at all, just leave it out. There really is no need to substitute with anything else. It adds a great flavor, adds a little bit of bite in this one because of the jalapeno. But if you don't like it, don't use it. Okay, oh, my dog is growling at the trash can. What are you growling at? There's nothing in there you want. She's growling at the trash can, wagging her tail. I don't know what's going on. I'll take care of that, and then we'll get back to the onions. These onions are looking pretty good now. You can see they've started to change colors a bit. Nice and sweated down, and the liquid has evaporated. So let's start getting our seasonings and the peppers. I'm going to get in here. So as I said, this is about a 4-ounce container. So if you'd rather use something other than the 3 jalapenos or 2 jalapenos. All right, garam masala, I'm going to use 6 tablespoons, as I said. Okay. I'm going to stir that up and let that kind of bloom a bit. It starts to smell amazing in here as soon as that hits the heat. Let that cook for just a minute, and then we'll get the ginger going in. So I did a ton of ginger yesterday because I have another recipe coming up I'm going to use this in as well. Hope to get to that tomorrow. So it's my heaping 1/4 cup of ginger. This is ginger that I had previously frozen, and it was kind of, I didn't think it was going to grind up very well in the food processor, but it actually did. It did great. Alright, let's get the rest of these seasonings in, and then we'll add this to the tomatoes. So coriander, I use 3 tablespoons. Cumin, I use 2.5 tablespoons. That's what I have left. So I ended up grinding some, and it just smells so good. Maybe I'll just use the one that I ground. Perfect. Half a tablespoon of cinnamon. Tablespoon of turmeric. 2 tablespoons of paprika. any of these spices, as I mentioned before, that you don't like, you can leave them out. You won't get exactly the same flavor, but if you don't like it, you won't like it, probably in the dish once it's canned either. I tend to find that people talk about different things intensifying when they are processed. I've kind of come to the conclusion that the things that intensify are the things that each individual person may be sensitive to. So, if you're very sensitive to salt, you're going to feel like salt intensifies, or black pepper intensifies. I had one person who was a little sensitive to thyme. She went ahead and used the tiny amount of thyme anyway and found that it became stronger as she processed it. So if there's something you don't like, maybe there's a substitute that you do like, or just leave it out. All right. It is time to get this mixture into the tomatoes. So I'm going to trade places with these two. Turn this burner off. All right, you see my tomatoes here. They've broken down a good bit. So they've also boiled down just a little bit. You can see the line used to be just about here. So that's good because, as you know, when they come out of the freezer, a whole lot of liquid can come with them. So I wanted to get rid of some of that liquid. All right, I'm going to get all of this into here. So as I said, if your tomatoes were already in the proper form, you would just now kind of be adding the tomatoes to this pan where you had done your onions and all of your seasonings. And that second pan would not be necessary. If you've ever had Indian butter chicken, out at an Indian restaurant where it tastes a little more authentic, it's very similar to that. So when we go to serve this, which you will see me do, you'll add coconut milk to it. So as we taste this for seasonings today, I always have coconut milk in my fridge, and I'll show you the one that I use. You would use a canned one if you don't happen to have the boxed kind that I have, but we want a full-fat coconut milk. I'm going to taste a little bit of it mixed with the coconut milk just to make sure that the flavor is good, because when I first made this and I was tasting the seasonings at this point, I felt like I needed a little bit something sweet to go in it. Well, it turns out the only thing that was missing was the coconut milk, which we add when it comes time to serve. All right, I'm going to let this boil down just a little bit, maybe 10 minutes or so, and then I'm going to stick the immersion blender in it. Now, the recipe does not call for that. The recipe is like, leave it like this. But to me, that means there's more work and more mess when it comes time to serve. She wants you to blend it then, so I've got to put it in, another dish. I'm making the chicken in one dish. I have to put this in something else because there wouldn't be enough room in the jar to stick the immersion blender in. Heat it up in that separate pan, use the immersion blender, get everything messy again, and if this is going to make 7 jars, then I'm doing that 7 times. So anyway, I'm just going to do it once. So I'm going to immersion blend today. It will make the sauce thicker. It will make a slightly greater risk of it bubbling up and having some seepage out of your jar. I did have that happen last time. If it is not thin enough, I will add a little bit of tomato liquid that I have from a recipe I did the other day. But you could add a little bit of water, you could add a little bit of chicken broth. Any of that would be fine. Or you can leave it as it is and just take it as a happy accident and have it for dinner the night that you make it. I think we're just about ready to blend this up. And once it's blended, I'll taste it with the coconut milk so I'm not distracted by all the crunching going on in here with all of the bits and bobs. All right, let's pull the blender out. All right, so you can tell from the popping here how thick this is now. It's about the same thickness as a very thick pasta sauce. So I will probably add a little bit of the tomato liquid from that. I perhaps let it boil down a little too long. So you can see it's not smooth, but they're not big chunks of things. It actually turned out to be a very good consistency. After processing and adding the coconut milk, it was pretty perfect. All right, I'm going to put a little bit in a dish, and then I'm going to get the coconut milk out. Wow, I made quite the mess. It was graceful. Okay, coconut milk coming up. So I like this one. There's no sugar in it. It's just coconut milk. So let me try to stir this enough so it's not going to splatter on me. So I have a little more coconut milk in there than I would normally use. But it's delicious. Okay, so I'm really good with the seasonings. If you find that you're not, you feel free to adjust. This is your dish, not mine. I am going to add a little bit of the tomato liquid in here, and I'll show you what that's going to do to. Somebody asked me the other day if I'd made any tomato juice this year. And I said, well, yes, I have, as a matter of fact, because as I've been dicing tomatoes to put in the freeze dryer, it creates a lot of juice, and it has been so tasty and so fresh tasting that instead of canning it this year, I'm generally keeping it in the freezer. So this one I just stuck in the fridge because I knew I might have this going on. Now that's better. You can see it stopped its explosions, right? You know, when the pasta sauce or whatever gets too thick, it can go all over the place. At least it can in my kitchen. That's kind of what we were having here. So I just thinned that out a little bit, and that's looking great. I'm going to let that heat all the way through now that I've added the cold tomato juice. I need to get the pressure canner heating up. The jars have been soaking in hot water. They've had hot water in them. So the jars are heated up and ready to go. I'm going to make sure that my pressure canner is heated up and ready to go as well. Okay, my sauce is hot, my jars are hot, my canner's hot. We are good to go. Let's get these loaded up. The book says to give them a generous 1 inch. I agree with that. Make sure you do the generous, which generally means, you know, 1 1/8 inches, 1 1/4 inches. This is a thick sauce, so I'm looking really kind of at 1 1/4 inches here. David walked through the kitchen a minute ago and wished me a jar that didn't seal because this is what he'd like for dinner. I don't know if I have enough for an 1/8 jar, but we're going to give it a shot. I think I'm pushing it. Yep. So this will be leftover. So David will get this for dinner tonight. even if I don't have a jar that doesn't seal. All right, so I did not get an 1/8 jar that is full enough to be canned, but it is full enough to make us dinner tonight. So that is pretty exciting. That'll make David very happy. See, this is, ooh, it's very hot. So this is where I am. You can see my headspace there. 1.125 inches, 1.25 inches, right around there. All right, the canner's beeping that it is ready for me. I'm just gonna run a little something around these jars just to make sure, well, that one's not getting canned. Just to make sure that I don't have any air pockets trapped in there. I should not. This is pretty liquid, but you never know. Okay, now let's clean these up. When you're cleaning your jars, which is always important because you don't want anything that could ruin your seal, it's important to feel for any kind of nicks or bumps or anything that may be along the rim of the jar that could also prevent a seal. So I'd rather catch it now and trade jars than have it not seal when I already have dinner set for tonight. Okay, I'm gonna reach in and grab that so it doesn't. Okay, let's get some lids. All right, 4 jars lids. If you don't have enough lids, make sure you get your lids. I have a link down below. Get you 10% off. Do these fingertip tight, so just as far as a couple of fingers can turn it, no further. That's that. All right, this one I'm just gonna put a lid and a ring on, but this one is going in the refrigerator. That one is not full enough to can, so don't try it. I will have that one for dinner tonight. Okay, so I'm gonna get these in the pressure canner. They'll go for 30 minutes. 10 pounds of pressure for me, so check your altitude to see what your pressure should be. I'm using the Presto electric canner, and it's gonna do all the work for me. So it makes a really pretty jar. All right, we'll come back when they're done. Okay, we're gonna get going on dinner. Now, normally I would serve this with chicken breast. I don't know why. I do butter chicken and curry chicken with chicken thighs, and I do chicken tikka masala with chicken breast. But anyway, what I had defrosted tonight was chicken thighs. So we are having chicken thighs with the tikka masala. This is the one that did not process, and coconut milk. So I have some broccoli on to go with it, and because we are keto, low carb, I'm going to serve it on cauliflower rice. It would be fantastic. Even better on regular rice, which is one of my favorite things in the world, but I can't eat that right now. If you have some naan bread, that would be fantastic. So this is going to be quick and easy. So I'm gonna set you up where you can hopefully see everything that's going on. It'll be fast. All right, first thing I'm going to do is get this turned on and pop my cauliflower rice in the oven. That is just some frozen cauliflower rice from Costco. All right. Avocado oil. I have just cut my chicken into kind of bite-sized bits. and remove some of the excess skin and fat that will not have time to render out properly in this preparation. This smells so good. So I'm excited about dinner tonight. Let me go ahead and salt the chicken because I always salt every level. We'll do a taste test later. Alright, the chicken has lost most of its pink. It is still not fully cooked yet. But I'm going to go ahead and get the sauce in here so that it can be getting that great flavor. Wish I had a full jar. Alright, I'm going to put a lid on this and let it simmer for a few minutes. Maybe 10 minutes or so. Finish cooking that chicken all the way through. Then we'll add the coconut milk and then put it all together. Alright, I have the broccoli turned on. Let me take a look at this. Ooh, hot, 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 hot. This is looking great. Let's get some coconut milk in there. You just have to watch me to see how much I use because I don't measure. Maybe a half cup, third cup, half cup. We'll see if I end up adding more. I will leave the coconut milk out in case that's not enough when we taste it. But it looks good. Just waiting on veggies now. All right, let's get this served up. First, cauliflower rice. Go ahead and turn this off so it doesn't splatter me. I thought that it did not need any more coconut milk, so I'm going to leave it right there. Of course, you do whatever suits you on that, more or less. Or you could use yogurt. I mean, coconut milk is traditional in this, but you could use yogurt too if you prefer. Just know that you won't get the same sweetness as you get from the coconut milk. Okay, there we go. So what do you think? Oh, it's very steamy. Let's give it a shot. It's very hot. I'm going to burn my tongue on this one, I know. You're going to love this one. I love this one. I think it's fantastic. I'm excited about having something different flavors on my shelf. So I've got another one coming here in the next week or two that I think you're going to like as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye.